Welcome to The Machine, a podcast from Waterford Institute of Technology. My name is Rob O'Connor and I'm a lecturer in the Department of Computing and Mathematics here at the Institute. It has been a while since we've done a podcast because it really is the business end of things for us in terms of our academic year. There's been a ridiculous amount of projects and assignments and exams and all of that kind of stuff. So hence the podcast being a little bit quiet over the last few weeks. However, I have managed to co-opt some of our outgoing fourth years into the studio today. I've brought them with coffee, water and a very fancy tea. So we come in to have a chat, reflecting on their time here, reflecting on perhaps some of the changes in IT, maybe their expectations of what they thought they would study and what they have studied. And I'm kind of putting it under the banner of I wish I knew then what I know now, as the song goes. As always, The Machine is available on social. It's available machine_podcast on Twitter, Machine Podcast on Facebook, although to be honest with you, I really don't do anything on the Facebook because of reasons. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, and a whole bunch of things like all the various platforms that you might expect to find podcasts. And our analytics recently got a little bit of a bump in terms of the granularity. So I'd like to say hello to all our listeners in Texas. You're very welcome along. Now, today we have, on my immediate left, we have Bhriain, who is just finishing up her degree in Internet of Things. We have Dimitra Zucharelli, who is just finishing up Applied Computing. And we have Ciaran Roche, who is also finishing up his degree in Applied Computing. Folks, you're very welcome along to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Before we get into maybe some of your reflections, we have just come from our project fair where all of your final year projects were put on display for everyone to go and see. A lot of people from industry came in, have a chat with you, ask you some very difficult questions. We might just kind of have a look at each of your projects just very briefly just to get you to explain them. Sure, Ciaran, we might start with yourself. So I'm just reading the titles here now. Okay, so yours is Rubik's Functions as a Container. This is an open source kind of functional programming framework.
Yeah, pretty much. See, when it came to my final year project, my main idea with it was just kind of cast my net out as far as I could and just explore technologies and kind of paradigms in which I have a general interest in myself, which is mostly Kubernetes and that kind of whole ecosystem. So that was my main goal, was just get this type of experience. So with Rubik's, I guess is kind of self-titled project. My idea was that there's a framework called Knative, and it's brand new. It's backed by Google. It's getting a lot of investment from other companies such as Red Hat, IBM, SAP, and a couple of others. So I just wanted to kind of explore that. But at the moment, because it's so new, it's kind of quite a big, uphill battle to try and get started with Knative. So my project was to develop an open source project that people can use, that they can play around with Knative themselves without having to do any of the grunt work underneath it.
Okay. I have no idea what you said there.
Okay.
No, I'm only joking. I recognise at least 3 words. Dimitra, you did adaptive monitoring system for consumer health diagnosis, which is a kind of a way of aggregating healthcare information from a variety of different sources. Is that correct?
Exactly. So for my own project, I was really interested in looking at machine learning. Obviously, it's a really hot topic at the moment, and I wanted to learn more about it. So the machine learning mixed with the healthcare, I thought would be a really interesting application of it. In the back end then, I'm really interested in enterprise architecture, and I knew I wanted to do something that was going to be highly available, highly reliable, scalable, and all of that. So healthcare just seemed like a really good application of that. And I read somewhere that as a generation, we've never been more interested in keeping track of our health and fitness data. And we do have all of that information at our fingertips, so why not use it?
Brilliant. And Emma, you did an indoor guidance system for people suffering from mild to moderate dementia. And yours is very much kind of device-based and sensor-based with a kind of a software front end on it. So can you describe what that was?
Sure. So it's a wearable device that someone with dementia would wear, and it helps them kind of stay safe in their own home. So as they're moving around, if they go somewhere that would be considered dangerous, like a kitchen with boiling water, the device vibrates to let them know that's not where they're supposed to be. And if they stay, say, in a danger area, it sends a notification to a care assistant with their location, just saying maybe go and check on them.
Brilliant. Now, what's very interesting about all those projects, right? Imagine we could travel back in time a few years back to you, September 4 years ago, coming in the door as, first years. If you try to describe that to your first year self, what do you think your first year self would say? Emma, we'll start with yourself.
Okay. I don't think I would have believed me, to be honest. I would have said, like, how do you even make a wearable device? What is a wearable device? Like, yeah. What languages are you going to use? Yeah.
Like you use Kotlin, which
Kotlin.
probably didn't, which would have been a very obscure language 4 years ago.
Yeah, Kotlin and MicroPython, which is kind of a branch of Python. So I really wouldn't have had a clue what that even is.
Yeah, somebody said MicroPython, small snake. And Dimitra, how about you?
The same as Emma. All of the languages I use, I had no clue what they even were in first year. I had no clue what machine learning was. Just all of that. I wouldn't have believed myself as well. And actually in first year and second year, I always used to think, I have no idea how I'm going to come up with a project. What am I going to do? I used to panic about it all the time. Like on the weekend, I'd like wake up and be like, what am I doing with my life? But so I'm really... It really does come naturally. It's not really something to worry about. It comes along the way, and I think it's all of our projects are very unique, and it just goes to show that it's kind of like an aggregate of all of your experiences. You come up with something that's personal to you based on your journey. So yeah.
And Ciaran?
I came in here like with doing experience with computers, was playing games, so I had no software development experience at all coming in here. So to see what I'm at creating today is, I don't know, it's kind of special, and it's something that everyone should be proud of, because I know we all came in here with different experience and different levels in first year, and it's crazy to see how far everyone has developed themselves as well as our own skills in writing code. Yeah,
what I loved about going around to all the projects was, first off, the range. So here we're talking about one that's kind of a framework, software framework. We're talking one that's kind of machine learning based on healthcare information. And then we have one that's a very practical use of technology, again, to assist in healthcare, which I think is great. But there was also games, and there was a really interesting one on Bitcoin that I don't understand at all, but it looked really good. There was projects from a whole range of areas. And I think that's what I get a buzz out of this, is to see what an individual has come up with themselves, because largely projects are student driven. So that's another tip to first year. Your lecturer isn't going to give you a project. It should be you. Right. So fair play to all of you on your projects, right? But imagine now, again, we had our little time travel device, and if you could give your first year self a little piece of advice, what would it be? Dimitra, we'll start with yourself.
I guess what I struggled most with in first year, it's such a cliche, it's the time management. Honestly, I tell myself to sleep more because I didn't sleep in first year. Well, I did sleep, okay, but before assignments, there wasn't much of sleep going on. So I guess sleep is so important. I didn't realize it at the time. And it is such a cliche, but I guess at the same time, it is a rite of passage. You have to be a first year who doesn't sleep and does their assignments last minute to become a fourth year who realizes that that's probably not the best way to approach it, and then tell first years not to do that. So probably time management would be the biggest thing, not to leave assignments up until the last minute, because I did a lot of that, and yeah.
It's just creating stress for yourself.
It's so much stress. It's just not worth it. Yeah, not worth it at all.
Ciaran?
I kind of go with, don't overthink things, because I've had the lads go a few times this story, but I remember the very first lab I ever had in here. I was sitting down, and just the terminology the way it was wrote was pretty basic, but it said the first step was create a new directory. And I was like, what is a directory? I had no idea. And I was in a room with 30 odd other people, and they all belting away on their keyboards. And I was sitting there going, I could feel beads of sweat coming out my forehead. It's like, I have no idea what a directory was. Trying to sneakily Google what is a directory, how do you create it in Windows, yada yada, and move on. But I remember, I'll never forget going home going, I'm never going to get through this. I'm just never going to get through this. But like, again, kind of goes back to, we all come in here at different levels and different skills, and it's just not to overthink this. And we all level out. Within even 6 months of first year, you're starting to find your feet and starting to get the same skills as everyone else. And we all finished then pretty much level in fourth year then, which is pretty good.
And Emma?
Yeah, mine's kind of similar to Ciaran's there. So when I started, I felt like everyone else knew how to program already, and I didn't. Like, I didn't even know what programming was when I started. And then kind of, it was only maybe by second year that I found out that actually not everyone knew how to program. Just because I saw you all typing doesn't mean that you were programming. So I'd say just kind of don't just presume that everyone else knows so much more.
Maybe go to march to the beat your own drum, perhaps,
Yeah, exactly.
to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Do you think your first year self would have taken that advice?
I would have been happy to hear it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Excellent. What would you say is the most common mistake that you see students committing throughout your 4 years here? Whether it's yourself or some of your classmates, your friends or whatever. Maybe people who didn't make it all the way through or whatever. So what would you say is the biggest mistake that you see people make?
I would say not asking questions when you don't understand. Like, it's just because someone else understands, that's no good to you. Like, you need to ask the question. Even if it's something easy, like you're better off to get a 2-second answer than to spend 10 hours at home trying to figure it out. Like 100%.
That's really good advice. I love when students ask me questions.
Yeah.
Particularly good questions, and even questions that I don't know the answer to. I love that.
Yeah.
It's because that's an interesting one. You know.
Yeah.
Ciaran.
For me, I wouldn't really call it a mistake per se. It's just throw your net out. There's only, like, the semesters are pretty short. There's only so much you can learn in here. But like IT in general, it's massive. So like, just throw your net out, start exploring new technologies on your own, and just get as much experience and exposure as you can to other stuff outside of college in the kind of ecosystem, I guess, of IT, because there's more to program than just Java. Say what we originally started off with in here, and when you start. Well, it is difficult at the start, I can understand that, but when you start pulling in different languages, you start seeing these similarities, and they're all very much based around the kind of same thing. And you just got to build your own experience and build your own confidence with it then as well. And plus, you'll come out of college a lot stronger. Yeah, you won't be just a one-trick pony. You can kind of throw your hand at most things.
It's an interesting one because looking at your projects, you would have probably each of you worked with technologies that you hadn't been taught directly. So say, for example, Emmy, I know you did Kotlin in your project. Did you do a Kotlin class?
I'd done a mobile app in Kotlin, but say the hardware side of it, I hadn't used Bluetooth beacons before. I hadn't used the vibrating motor that I used. I hadn't used any of them before.
So again, you were essentially teaching yourself the technology.
Yeah.
And how did you find that?
Challenging, but probably the most rewarding part of the project was when those bits started to work, the bits that I didn't have, say, a 5-step plan of how to get them to work. Kind of the struggle made it worth it.
And again, if you could go back to your first year or second year self, or even your third year self perhaps, to say that you would teach yourself a technology.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
and like, had you used Ciaran, any technologies in your project that you hadn't directly worked with already?
Yes, kind of. Definitely not from what in college, like with likes of Golang and stuff, like Kubernetes, even Knative itself, it's brand new, like it's only a couple of months old. So
I love that when you have projects where you're feeling out around the edges and you're kind of trying something out, might work, might not, don't know, and there isn't maybe great documentation, a couple of web forums that you're kind of, I love that in the project.
Yeah, it was exciting as well because like the project is moving really quickly. There's a lot of development behind Knative, so they kept kind of pulling the rug out from underneath me. So what plan I had 8 months ago kept changing. Like they started off at 0.1 version, they're now at 0.7 version. So they're throwing out new releases, and it's all in alpha, so things are constantly changing. So it was exciting. It was exciting to keep catching up with it then.
And for yourself then, Dimitra, was there any technology in particular that you worked in your project that you had no exposure to before your project started?
A lot of them actually. I used serverless functions on Kubernetes as similar to what, nothing similar to what Ciaran was doing, but that was something that I'd never tried before. Just the architecture side of it, I'd never really explored too much, and languages like Golang as well, same as Ciaran. Those are something that I'd never really tried before, and it was actually one of the most rewarding parts of the project, figuring these things out for yourself, discovering new technologies, trying to implement them. It's actually really fun once you get to it because you build up to it. It's not just something that you learn how to do day one. I think that it's a skill that we've all learned to get better at over the last 4 years. And we have become really good at learning stuff on our own and going out and exploring new things. And I think that's great. I think that's what makes it.
And if you'd said that to your first year self?
Oh, my first year self, I was terrified. I remember once... I think it was in that same class. We had to copy like commands, and I always had the $sign in the beginning of the command, and I was always copying the $sign, and I just couldn't figure out why it was there or what I needed, and nothing was working, and I didn't know what was going on. So, yeah, my first year self would never have thought that. So
I remember when we got our first computer. I don't think I'd started college. I think I was just about to start college, and we were after getting our first PC at home. My parents had got it. and it was a Windows PC, but this is Windows 3.1. So this is probably before any of you were born even, right? And the thing about it was Windows didn't load directly. It used to boot into DOS, and then you had to load Windows in on top of it. And I had to ring my friend on a landline. I said, how do I get into Windows? What's the command for Windows? I don't know how to get into this. And I remember my dad going on, you're going in to study computing. But I just didn't know. You know, and the command was win, by the way. It was like 3 letters. But it was a strange thing that was just maybe some of those kind of things, they're not as intuitive as maybe we expect them to be. And nobody knows it all themselves. You know, you have to kind of be shown a few things, and then you can start to learn for yourself.
I think just getting those basic skills at college. Everyone has a different way of learning. I do really well when people show me things, and then I go off and build up on that. So just being shown the basics was really important for me, and then you use those basics and you'd be surprised at how much you can transfer over just between modules, between languages. You'd be really surprised. There's a lot of stuff that you know that you can build up on, and that applies for every year, I think, of your journey. Yeah.
Definitely. Right, so you guys did applied computing. So Ciaran and Dimitra, you did applied computing. Emma, you did Internet of Things, which shares a huge number of modules with applied computing, but you have a kind of a more hardware focus that the lads wouldn't have. Yeah. How did your course meet your expectations and also deviate from your expectations? Go on, Emma, we'll start with yourself. And feel free to be negative, by the way, if you want to, okay? Yeah. You're finished now, so...
Yeah. Like, I knew going into it, obviously, that Internet of Things is going to have hardware and software. Like, we knew that from the get-go. And in that sense, like, it is a big part of it, but at the same time, in some ways it isn't. Like, because we have so many shared modules, like, you are good, like, to get to the end of this course, you're a good programmer. Like, all the lads that were in that project fair today, they're all good programmers. And I don't think I was expecting, not in a bad way, just I wasn't expecting that it was going to be such a big part of it, the software side.
And you hadn't done any programming?
I didn't know what it was, no.
Oh. And look what you built today.
I know.
Or, well, you didn't build it today, or you built this year.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I actually remember, even in first year, I think it was possibly your class, Rob, and you asked me, like, what's the difference between, or the benefit of a command line over a GUI? And you were like, go on, even take a guess. And I was like writing down, Google what a GUI is when you get home. What is a command prompt? So, yeah, it's been a long journey.
Oh, well, I hope it didn't scare you for life anyway.
No.
What do you think you're on? How did the course meet and deviate from your expectations?
I actually came in here with no expectations, to be honest with you. I was just like, I was 10 years out of school when I came back. So
okay, so you came in as a mature student.
Yeah. I know my youthful looks might like...
It's the beard, it's the beard.
But I came in with no expectations. I just knew I needed to upskill. I needed to reskill. Like, I was in the building trade and I needed to change up then.
Okay. So you came in... What, probably at the height of the recession, would it have been? Or thereabouts?
Thereabouts, come near the end of it, I kind of had a bad recession. But
okay.
Yeah. So I just needed to reskill and upskill, and I just knew IT was where to go. It seems to be the way everyone was pointing. So I just done my research, and like applied was kind of, say, the pinnacle of the IT courses in the college, and everything else kind of umbrellas out around it. So I just said I'll go for applied, and why not? And so,
as we said at the start, your background in IT was playing games essentially.
Yeah,
okay.
Essentially, yeah. Just general use on computers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, deadly. And how did then? So you said you didn't have any expectations, but then how did maybe things?
Oh yeah, that was tough. It's like I said, I was 10 years out of school, so the only math I would have done in 10 years is probably count money. So that's probably the only bit of addition I would have done. So to come in, and there was quite a lot of math, heavy math at the start of the course. That was a shock to the system, but you get through it. It's just a matter of putting the head down with it. But you will get through it, because I know a lot of people give out about it, that it is heavy, but it's just a matter of you have to put your head down. Unfortunately, there's no short answer to it, but you can get through it. Everyone here today got through it.
And Dimitra, how did things meet or not meet your expectations?
Pretty similar to Ciaran. I didn't have very many expectations. It was kind of by accident that I fell into this course. A happy accident, I guess, but I didn't have very many expectations. I wasn't sure. The maths, I wasn't expecting that much maths, but I like maths, so I was kind of lucky in that. The programming, I'd never done programming before, so I wasn't sure what to expect. It definitely I wasn't expecting it to be this much work, definitely. But that's a good thing. And it's, again, not something that you have to start day one with a great work ethic. You kind of work towards it. And by fourth year, you get into the rhythm. So, yeah, I didn't really have many expectations. I can't really... Yeah, that's...
Just kind of go on top of that then. It was just like, we're coming in with no expectations. It's really cool that there's so many new doors, kind of new avenues open up to you. That, like, we done physics, and I didn't even do physics in school when I went many years ago. And like, I never realised I actually had a bit of a passion for it. I had a bit of a, I guess, a flair for it. You know, you get all this exposure to so many new things in here. So yeah, no, it's really cool.
I think that's the thing about applied computing, is that it's so, like, there's opportunities to specialize in so many different areas. You get a general how would you say it? You get a general idea of so many different areas, and you realize what you like and what you don't like. Like, things that I thought I wouldn't like, I actually ended up really enjoying. So it's great that you get to taste so many different things to be able to decide what you want to do in the end. And I think that's why I love the applied computing course. You can specialize eventually in what you do want to do, but you have opportunities to explore other areas as well.
Because it's interesting when we talk about your projects, healthcare and healthcare data and dementia, which, again, if you were to go back to your first year self and talk about healthcare and dementia, it does not sound like an immediate IT focus, does it?
No, definitely
Not at all. Yeah.
No.
It's interesting, actually. Like, I was just talking with Emma beforehand that all of the girls seem to do a project related to healthcare or some sort of like
social
side. And I don't know, that we found that to be quite interesting compared to the guys who had more. I don't know. I'm not trying to make generalizations here.
No, that's fair enough. No, it is like, maybe we talk. Ciaran, yours is more of a kind of a software, whereas yours tend to be more kind of applied in a very specific area, which maybe have more kind of societal bents on them, perhaps.
Yeah, and I think if I'd known kind of how this course could link to things outside of like the stereotypical sitting in front of a screen all day, like it actually being relevant outside, like in the outside world.
In the real world.
Yeah, exactly. I think I would have, I don't know, it would have changed my perception a little bit, whereas that was something I kind of had to almost figure out as we went along, like, oh, I can use it for this, you know.
Do you think there's lots of people out there who maybe don't look at IT, don't even consider it?
Yeah, definitely.
Because of that?
Yeah, because they just, either like me, they didn't know what it was, or they just didn't think it was for them, because when you know, they could think of it and just think of like just code up on the screen, you know, the stereotypical kind of thing, and maybe not really know all the applications.
Right. Now feel free to launch into a tirade of abuse here. If you could change one thing, or even two things about WIT, what would it be? Who wants to go first? Go on, load your shotgun.
The parking.
Okay.
That's my biggest gripe in the 4 years. Because I live in Ferrybank, so I have to contend with Ferrybank traffic coming across that bridge. So I have to get up really early just to beat that traffic and then to beat the car parking here. So that's my biggest gripe. Just and also, as I said earlier on, the water machines. We need more fountains here. So any student union person listening to this, try and get on that. Get more water fountains in there.
I like those suggestions.
I would change the printing. I think after 4 years and I still don't know how to print something here, so I have no clue, honestly. That's probably something I'd try and make a bit easier.
I'm 12 years here. I still don't know how to print things. Emma?
Well, I don't know, I agree with the two guys. They're both very good points.
Is there anything else though? Like, you know, I mean, look, feel free. Go for it.
Like, I know we have the Students' Union kind of as a social space, but in terms of size, like, it's nice, but it's not massive. I think maybe a bigger social space would be nice. Even just kind of between classes, if you don't want to buy a coffee, you know, and sit in the Centra, just somewhere else to go. Even just an extension, you know.
There's an interesting one, actually, because of the fact that you're computing students, and there's no computing space in the way that there would be for, say, nursing students or students in other disciplines that have that kind of recognisable area. Do you think that would be a nice thing to have?
I think so, yeah. Because even like sometimes we've had timetables where we have like 3 hours free between classes, so you can't really go anywhere. So just somewhere to, you know, rather than go to the library and keep working.
Okay, if you could design your dream area, your dream computing student waiting space, what would it be? What would you have in it?
Couches, Ethernet cables. That would be nice.
Or working Wi-Fi?
Yeah, either. Yeah.
That's a little in joke for WIT people.
Just windows would be nice.
As in physical windows?
Physical windows that you can see outside.
Not Microsoft Windows, yes.
No. And maybe like different computers with different operating systems, because for some modules the software will only work on Windows, for some it will only work on Linux. So to have somewhere to kind of be able to jump between the two would be nice.
Okay, so would you talk about a kind of a virtual lab, is it? Or lab with virtualization software in it? Or dedicated labs that were Windows?
Either, even just a room with like
Linux.
a Windows laptop and a Linux laptop. Just,
That's good suggestion, yeah. Excellent. Now, I'm any other ones there before we move on from this topic? This is your chance.
No, pretty okay, I think.
Okay, so water fountains, parking. I definitely can't do anything about that. But the waiting space, I think that's an important one. It helps to give a sense of identity as well.
Yeah.
It was interesting because before we came in here to record, we were talking to some of the students from entertainment systems who you've been around circling for about 4 years, and you didn't really know each other.
Well, I mean, as a class, I didn't even really speak to Emma before this year, and that applies to so many other computing students and other courses. We only really got to know each other in 4th year because we have shared some modules, and it's been amazing getting to know them. They're such amazing people, and it is a pity that we haven't had that opportunity before. So,
and hopefully, you'll all stay in contact, even if it's virtually on a group or whatever like that.
yeah. Absolutely.
Because you could be nice kind of support network for yourselves as you go throughout your careers. I know I'm still in touch with people I went to college with 20 years ago. That's another day's work. Right, so outside of academics, outside of programming languages, technical skills, all that kind of stuff, what do you think has been the most positive experience for yourself personally throughout your time here at WIT? Emma.
Okay. Well, last year, instead of work placement, I went on Erasmus, so I spent 6 months in Germany, and that was definitely like the best experience. And even if you'd said that to me in first year, I would have been like, I don't speak German, why would I go to Germany? But honestly, the best experience that I'll probably have now for a long time.
Where did you go?
I went to Regensburg, so it's about an hour from Munich and an hour from Nuremberg, so between the two.
Wow. And you were in a university over there,
I was in
it?
a university, yeah.
And what did you do there?
I just took some computer science modules, but the thing that they let you do in this university was you could sit in on other classes. So I took a Spanish class because I liked Spanish in school. I did really interesting classes. There was one, so companies came in, you worked on a team with people from a business class and industrial design. So it was kind of making one solution but using like different areas of expertise. So that was really interesting.
Brilliant. Excellent. Would you recommend Erasmus
100%.
to other students? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm always surprised why more students don't take it up.
Yeah, because even like the friends that I've made, like I've got friends from like Argentina that I know I'm going to see again, and like Spain, and
Brilliant.
I loved it.
Brilliant. Dimitra.
Right. I think one, like a personal growth aspect is, I guess I've grown a lot socially. I used to be very shy, very reserved, and just, I don't know how on a computing course that's something that I've managed to improve on, but I have. And I guess the idea of putting yourself out there. So I used to be very scared to put myself out there, but something that I've learned is how important it is. Just networking, socializing, making contacts, things like the Waterford Tech Meetup, which is so important for even just your knowledge of computing skills. That's something in second year when it first started and I started going, I had no idea what they were talking about. It was very intimidating, but you learned a lot with that process, and you also learned how to socialize and put yourself out there, and a lot of us got placement through that. And I think that's just such an important skill. If I could recommend that to first years, just put yourself out there, go to the tech meetups, go to the industry fairs, talk to people. It's not as scary as you think, and it's definitely worth it. Like you make a lot of great friends along the way, and that's been such an amazing thing for me to have. All of these people that I've met along the way, and yeah,
you could have friends for life there now. Yeah,
friends for life. Yeah.
And Ciaran.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Dimitra was saying. Just kind of to iterate on it. It's just through the course you kind of get exposure to these new soft skills that you didn't even know you had, and like that, just kind of building confidence. Because I came in here kind of guess a lot more introverted, and it was just, I thought this would be perfect. IT is perfect, and just hide behind a computer screen all day. But reality is not like that. And through then, whether it's just doing a presentation in class, just building that confidence, getting out there, getting out a little bit more. And 4 years later, I spoke at that Waterford Tech meetup and done my own talk on it. And then
brilliant.
I'm here recording a podcast. So, like, you
Yeah.
know, 4 years ago, you wouldn't think that, but it was all through just the small little things that we do in different modules in here. So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Okay, so all of you are finished now. I know some of you have jobs, some of you are going off on adventures. So you're starting work next week, Ciaran, is it?
2 weeks time.
2 weeks time. Dimitra, you're going to have a little bit of decompression time. You're going to read a book,
yeah.
an actual physical book.
A physical book.
Yes, and Emma, you're going off on a J1 to America, which
Yeah.
is brilliant. And then you're going to come back and you've got a job sorted out for the new year.
Yeah.
So, but would I be correct in saying, for a brief moment today, all of you are unemployed? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you now that won't be for very long. Okay. So I like to use cooking analogies on this podcast for some stage. It started as a small joke and now it's just kind of mushroomed. So I have to get a cooking analogy in for every single episode that we record. And the analogy is often that kind of the programmer is the chef, or the computer person is the chef, and a variety of different things are ingredients and tools and things like that. And the only analogy I can really basically get is that you're all chefs now. So go off and make some great dishes, and some of you might open your own restaurants. And if any of you do happen to make billions and you're feeling particularly generous, if you want to come back and buy me a nice Tesla car, that'd be lovely. Lads, thank you so much for coming in and chatting to us today. We wish you all the best in your future careers, and I look forward to hearing of your adventures. This is probably going to be the final episode of the Machine podcast for this academic year. We'll start up again in September. If we have time, we might get another one in before that, but I can't guarantee it. So thanks so much to everyone who has been on the podcast this semester. We'll be back hopefully bigger and bolder and better than ever before next year. If you want to like, subscribe and all that rubbish, go ahead. If not, I don't really mind.